I could dig it. And I wanted to go back. You mentioned previously that there was a time in your ministry where you would preach or deliver messages that weren't, like, you would talk down, I guess, on gay people and the gay lifestyle. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my question is, I've been having this thought in my head. Like, I believe that there's within every profession, and I call a profession if you're getting a salary, if you're getting paid to do a thing consistently, I believe I consider that a profession. Right or wrong, I don't know. That's what I do. So I believe in every profession that there's always a group, a minority of individuals who do it just for a paycheck.
Yeah.
And for me to think that the ministry
Mm-hmm.
is different
Mm-hmm.
is being naive.
Absolutely.
So I had this thought that
humans are humans no matter what your title is, but go ahead.
Exactly. So I had this thought that, like, are there atheist pastors? Like, people who don't believe in God, doubt God, that are actually ministering to millions and to thousands?
I absolutely believe that. I've seen preachers preach what they don't believe. I've preached what I don't believe, right? Mm-hmm. Homosexuality is wrong. After I preach that sermon, I'm going to lay in the bed with a man.
Yeah.
And we keep up the charade for one, the title and prestige, and if there's some type of financial attachment to it, right? And it is one of the easiest, and that's why a lot of people do it. You'll hear stories of ex-gang members, and not judging any of them. This is a small portion of this story, but it's the truth. Ex-gang members, drug dealers, etc., becoming pastors, and you hear that message, and it's like, well, sir, you haven't said anything, but you spent 30 to 40 minutes begging for an offering, and getting people to get their light bill and their gas bill, and you were good at that, but your message was clearly terrible. Or there was an ex-porn star who became a pastor, and not saying that you can't go from a porn star to a pastor, but where was your transition period? You just went from slamming your tool inside somebody straight to the pulpit. And you're preaching. And why? Because it's unregulated. The government really can't tell you what to do, how to regulate your money. And it's easy because people are very manipulative. The Bible talks about, us being just silly sheep and just going with the wind, and we will just go to whatever our ear, wants to hear, and people will pay you for it. I don't get paid, by the ministry. My pastor, my mentor in Tallahassee, he, was a full-time consultant, lobbyist, worked for the governor. He didn't depend on the church for his money. I know a lot of pastors who don't depend on the church for their money, and that is one of the best ways to lead a ministry, when your money is not tied to it. But when your money's tied to it, that's a totally, totally different story. And again, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with taking care of the pastor and giving him, his just due. But there are some financial issues in ministry that people seem to not care about and overlook. I can't tell you what to do with your money, so I'm not getting involved.
Yeah, I like what you just said in that. I feel the same exact way. And I've personally seen it. Like, I've personally seen ministers, pastors, bishops, reverends, whatever you want to call it. I've seen them live. Like, they don't have nothing else to do but that. They're traveling. It's almost like, if you ever watched the show Martin back in the day, Donnie Love or something like that. He was played by David Allen Gray. He was just taking Martin's mom.
Hilarious. Yeah.
And yeah, you see, he's just traveling around the world and all that stuff just off the church.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you another, do you believe all sins are equal?
In the eyes of God, yes.
Okay. That's
In
all
the
that matters.
eyes of the
Wait, no,
law,
no, no. In the eyes of God, you're saying you believe that all sins are equal, correct?
yes.
So,
Well, let me define sin.
okay,
Sin is simply disobedience to God's word, um, or specific instruction to you.
okay. So
Because you cannot take the things that are labeled as sin in the Bible as equal.
okay.
For
So,
instance, the Bible has rules about not eating seafood and marrying your rapist and all these different instructions that
okay,
have nothing to do with today. So
okay,
you can't count them as equal. But the sin against God's commandment to love, right, is still for today. You can't love God whom you don't see and not love your brother whom you see every day.
okay. Is cocaine a sin?
See, that is that is a personal, for instance, right? The actual cocaine, whatever it comes from like a leaf, right? Or I don't know where
Yeah.
cocaine comes from. Whatever that is, isn't a sin. It's not a bad thing. Whatever it could be used for. Like say if the material, this is just an example, not true, but say the material of some of the material of cocaine is in Tylenol and I take the Tylenol. Am I sinning because I have now consumed a piece of cocaine? The sin comes in when you abuse whatever whatever it is and do harm to yourself. Because we're supposed to take care of our temples and our bodies. So the same way that you are using cocaine and ruining your body is the same way you are overeating and eating all these terrible foods and ruining your body, because that's just happening more slowly.
See, the punchline that I'm trying to communicate, and I always have a challenge doing it. Maybe today would be different, but I'm thinking we make it as society and as human beings, we make certain sins bigger than the next. So someone may, like you may have, so you may say a pastor or a minister or whatever may say, you're not supposed to be, you can't be gay and be a minister, right?
All the time.
But then you'll have that same minute. See, I don't mind, and this is just my thing. I don't mind if I know your sin, like whatever sin, right? Like, I don't fear the gay man who's, trying to be a pastor. I don't fear him. I fear the guy that's behind the pulpit or the woman that's behind the pulpit that never reveals anything, because I believe we all have some type of sin. So if someone can condemn someone or send someone to hell for whatever it is, it could be porn. I remember I went to a church in Baltimore, Maryland, a guy named Jamal Bryant. He had this, I thought he was an incredible pastor. I went to his church a couple times.
Incredible speaker. Incredible.
Yeah. And that was my first mega church that I've ever been to in history. I tried not to go to it for years. I graduated from Morgan State University. It was right down the street. But yeah, he had his whole, episode with other women, etc. And you had people just saying blah, 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 as it, all I saw it was as like, oh, that's just was his thing. He liked pornography. He was an adulterer. He had sex with other women. Now, maybe I'm too loose with my discipline of a relationship with God, but I thought that was none of my business. he had to correct that. We all have something we're dealing with. Right. What is your thoughts about that? Like, what's your thoughts about that?
Well, one, speaking specifically to Pastor Jamal Bryant, who aggressively comes out against homosexuals, is, walking the same line, right? I got my mess. Y'all don't worry about me, but you can't be gay. Sir, you just cheated on your wife and had kids out of wedlock and sleeping around with call girls and watching pornography. And you're going to tell me about being gay, who, may be in a committed, wholehearted relationship and not cheating and not sleeping with call people and not watch pornography, but I'm wrong. But anyway, human beings tend to project their insecurities on other people, right? So I can't be perfect, but I want you to be perfect because you're supposed to be perfect. So I'm going to judge you and make you perfect because I can't be perfect, but you can be perfect because you're supposed to. I can sin, but you can't. I can make mistakes, but you can't. Totally disregarding the fact that we're all humans living this human experience. Tell me one person outside of Christ that God used in the Bible that was perfect. All of these people were cheaters, alcoholics, liars, murderer. Paul was one of the biggest apostles, was a huge murderer. I mean, he should be in jail. See how that white privilege go? He didn't kill these people in jail. Peter was a liar. Christ said, "You'll deny me." He said, "No, I'll never deny you." Who that meant? I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Peter was black. Peter was black because he said, I have nothing to do with what's going on with that over there. And so many people that God used in great ways in the Bible were not perfect. And we as humans look for people to portray that perfect person. And that's why a lot of pastors go out there and try to be that perfect person. I've always, not always. There are few pastors in my life who I appreciate because they don't pretend to be perfect. They let you know when something's up, and the people understand, he's human, he's my pastor. But what I don't like is when the church runs to the defense of someone who is clearly in the wrong and needs to remove himself from the ministry and get itself together before continuing to serve. For instance, there was a pastor in Tallahassee who was sleeping with one of the members who was married. And it made big news, and this is the only reason why I'm talking about it, because it made national news. I'd never gossip about something local and not out there. And so the lady's child was sick in school. The school had been calling her over and over, like, come get your child. So they couldn't get her, so they called the dad. The dad went off work, got the child, came home. He saw the pastor's car in his driveway, walked in the house, and the pastor and the wife was in the child's bed having sex. And the pastor jumped out of the window naked, running through with no clothes on. And the husband took the pastor's clothes and his keys and drove off. And so I don't know where the pastor was hiding when he was naked, but eventually came back to the house. They called 911. The police asked the husband, please come back with this man's clothes and his car keys. This man went to church as if nothing happened, refused to sit down, refused to take a break, told the people, who are you to judge me? Mind your own business. And the church sat there and clapped their hands and praised him. Now me, who ain't bothering nobody, who's not sleeping with anybody's spouse, who's not running through neighborhoods naked, could never step foot in their pulpit simply because I'm gay. And that's supposed to be God. I don't think so.
Mm.
So the